Once upon a time, there lived a great king known for being brave and strong. One day he was wandering around the woods by himself. It was unprecedented for someone of such stature to do so. However, the king had his reasons. Instead of relying on his advisors, who would embellish or even fabricate information to please him, he secretly traveled among his people to gather information directly from them. This way, he gained unfiltered insights into what was going on in his kingdom and what people thought. But this time, he found that he had lost his way. It was getting dark, and he hadn't planned to spend the night in the forest since it was riskier at night. So he went to the top of a hill. He looked around but couldn't see any people or villages. Then, he could see the light from a great distance after some time. The king thought the light must be coming from a human settlement, so he walked in the direction of the light and soon came to a hut. As he approached the shack, he noticed an older woman cleaning up outside the hut. The old lady did not recognize the king but thought he was a soldier and welcomed him with warm hospitality. She provided her guest with clean water for cleaning and prepared a comfortable mattress for relaxing. After a while, she served a steaming hot rice and curry dish in front of him. The king was famished as he hadn't eaten all day, so he hastily put his fingers on the hot food. However, the hot food burnt his hand, and he dropped some rice on the floor. "Oh, you seem very impatient and hasty like your king," the old lady observed. "That's why you burned your fingers and lost some food." The king was taken aback by the lady's words and asked, "Why do you believe our king is impatient and hasty?" The old lady grinned and replied, "My darling son, our king has a big dream of taking all his enemy forts. By doing so, he concentrates on taking the larger, more prominent forts while disregarding the smaller ones." The king was confused and interrupted the lady, "But, isn't that's a nice thing, I don't see the problem with it." With a smile, she replied, "The impatience that caused you to burn your fingertips also caused you to squander a portion of the meal." Similarly, the king's haste to crush his foes led to the deaths of many of his soldiers. Instead, if you eat less hot food on the outer edge and then steadily move to the hotter middle, you can avoid burning your fingers and wasting food. Similarly, the king has to first focus on the smaller forts to consolidate his power. When the king takes over the small villages, forts, and other settlements, providing supplies and information to the stronger fortresses, the enemy's morale gradually deteriorates, making it simpler to capture them. This will help him take over the larger forts without suffering heavy casualties among his force. After hearing this, the king realized his mistake and learned the importance of patience and not acting hastily. So he thanked the woman for her wisdom and left the next morning. After that day, he always made plans to grow his kingdom steadily rather than prematurely acting on impulses. Moral: if we want to succeed in life, we need to learn how to get there and then put in the time and effort necessary to make it happen. When we want quick results, we will become impatient, make mistakes and may never reach what we want in life. If we want to get what we want out of life, we need to be patient and work for our goals over time. The next story. The country that had no onions. Once upon a time, there lived a young man who was looking to grow in his life. While exploring what business he would take to support his family, he met a very well-traveled man. The man told the young man great tales of his travel, and then he talked about a country that had no onions. "No onions," exclaimed the young man. In all his life, he had never heard of such a thing. How can anyone enjoy the true pleasure of food without onions? Without any further thoughts, he bought onions, filled his cart and set his journey towards this whimsical land of no onions. Finally, after several days he arrived in the onionless country. He made his way to the palace, where the guards were fascinated enough by the weird cargo that they allowed him to meet the king. "I bring you a great gift from my country," the young man proudly announced. "The plant is native to my place but new to yours. It has the unique ability to enhance the flavor of any food. It would be great if I could offer you this magnificent plant which you, in turn, introduce it to your people." The emperor was a little cautious about letting the weird plant at first, but he later allowed the young man to prepare some delicacies using the onions. The young man used all his culinary skills to prepare the feast using the onions. All the empire's ministers, the nobility and senior officials were invited to the dinner that night. After the young man did the initial tasting, the feast commenced. Then, everyone in the room started eating the food. It didn't take long for the whole to lapse into a great noisy fit-out of excitement. All praised the smell and the taste of the food. The king thanked the young man profusely, demanded the entire batch of onions, and paid him its weight in gold. On his journey back home, the young man met a trader. He shared his magnificent story about the country. For hours that night, the young man recounted the splendor and magnificence he had seen in that faraway land, where gold was worth less than onions. He also told the trader that he learned that the country did not have garlic. The trader was excited to learn that and thought he could replicate the young man's success by introducing garlic to the country. Garlic is infinitely more tasty and aromatic. If they were giving gold for onions there, he could expect diamonds for garlic, he thought. The enterprising trader carried huge bags of garlic and took on the journey to the country without garlic, with the riches he was sure to receive jingling merrily in his mind. Since the introduction of the onions recently overjoyed the land, they were more open to the idea of trying his garlic. The royal guards took the man with the new herbs to the king. The king asked him to prepare a feast using garlic. The trader was very excited and made several tasty dishes using garlic. The garlic received even more praises than the onions, as he had expected. The emperor discussed with his ministers for a long time the reward for their noble guest who introduced them to the garlic. After some discussion, they all agreed that the gold was not enough for such delicious food. So they decided to reward him with the most precious thing they had to offer. What can be more precious than gold? Onions. That night the trader returned home with bags full of onions. Next story. What is compassion? A young disciple approached his master and asked, "Master, you always tell us to be kind and compassionate. But what is compassion?" After thinking, the wise teacher asked the young student to peek out the window. Master led him to the window and directed his attention to the beggar sitting on the corner of the street. While looking at him, they noticed that an old lady had walked by and given him a coin. After a while, a merchant wearing elaborate clothes passed by and gave him 5 coins to the beggar. After a while, a mother and a child passed the street. The young child noticed the beggar and handed him a flower he was carrying. After looking at these 3 incidents, the master asked the student, "Which of these do you believe felt the most compassion for the beggar?" Merchant did as he gave the beggar 5 coins, answered the young pupil. The master smiled at the pupil and answered, "You see, an elderly lady passing by was infuriated by the beggar's poverty, so she gave him a gold coin. The old lady behaved out of pity for the beggar." After that, we observed a merchant see a small gathering of people talking about him, so he handed the beggar 5 coins and swiftly left. Merchant acted with pride. He wanted to show off his money to those folks while demonstrating that he has a huge kind heart and enjoys helping others. He tried to up his social image and boost his ego. Later, we noticed a child carrying some flowers, and when he walked by the beggar, he smiled and handed him a flower. He did not have pride or pity or want to boost his ego or social image. He acted with love. That little child was the one who responded compassionately. Compassion is considerably larger and nobler than pity, Master said. Fear is the source of pity. When fear touches someone's anguish, it turns into pity. When love touches someone's pain and suffering, it becomes compassion. So, to comprehend compassion, we must recognize that all beings are the same and suffer in a similar manner. We must acknowledge those who suffer and realize that we are neither different nor superior to anybody. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you very much.